Okay, cool. Here we go. Ready?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Are you looking to build influence? Or maybe to drive more traffic? But bottom line, you want to change the game. You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Business Building Book Club. We're going to give you the tools you need to succeed, both online and in person. Brought to you by Coach Molly and Three Pines Leadership.
Welcome one and welcome all to the Business Building Book Club. I'm your host, Coach Molly from Three Pines Leadership, and thank you so much for taking this part of your day out of your day to spend here with us. We are diving into my favorite book when it comes to business building and influence building, and that is Russell Brunson's Expert Secrets. Remember, my friends, you can get your own copy of this fantastic book, this wonderful second edition hardcover book for free. All you have to do is cover the cost of shipping. So head on over to leadershipmade.com/expert-secrets. That's leadershipmade.com/expert-secrets. All right, my friends. So this season, we're doing something completely different. We are not only diving into each of the chapters in this amazing book, but we are also diving in so deep. We're having conversations with some of the most amazing inspirational funnel builders out there about how they're implementing these strategies and these tactics in their own businesses and what this stuff has actually done to transform their lives and businesses. So I want to introduce to you one of my favorite, my soul sister, my funnel sister. I want to introduce to you Samantha Gooden. So Samantha, who are you and what do you do?
You know what? First off, I've got to say that was awesome. Like everything you just did was super duper kajillion billion super califragilisticexpialidocious awesome right there. I mean, I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Yeah, so you are my soul sister. And one of the reasons for this is because of what I have dedicated my life to doing. I've dedicated my life to helping women to crush their fears, but not just do that. I want them to liberate their message and launch their ideas and monetize that. So some people call me a marketing coach. Some people call me just a ball of dynamic energy. I am an entrepreneur, and I've been a marketing consultant for over 20 years. I lost absolutely everything. And in the last 12 months, I've been using funnels to completely change my life through course creation and also coaching. So Molly, I went from 500K to zero, and I'm building my way back up. I just did a multi-5-figure month last month, and we're already, this is the first, when you listen, this is the first week of this month, and we've already hit our first five figures. Yeah. So yeah, over 20. Yeah, so far. So yeah, it's phenomenal. And the stuff we're going to talk about, I know it works because this is my life.
Oh, fantastic. So let's just jump straight into it. So the interesting thing for those of you listening at home, either listening on your favorite podcast platform or checking us out in video on the Three Pines Leadership YouTube channel, the interesting part about this episode is that I've been reading the new version, the second edition hardcover version, and Samantha's been reading out of the old edition, which still has a ton of absolutely fantastic information in it. But what we've realized is the chapter we're talking about today doesn't exist in the old book. Woo! My microphone's so excited, it's running away. This chapter doesn't exist in the old book. So what it is a rethinking of the framework that was originally taught in the first book. So it's going to be kind of fun to see how we've taken this information, put it into our businesses, and how it's evolved in Russell's mind as well, which is fantastic. So
Molly, that's kind of one of the things that I absolutely love. I wanted to say Russell Brunson. I mean, the first books were phenomenal, right? But this, based on what you've shared, because I don't have my second edition yet, the second is even better. And he's sharing the goods with us. Like, he's going to town and sharing it. Our responsibility is just to implement it. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you about this.
And what I'm loving, let's just jump on that for a second. What I'm absolutely loving is the fact that we're going to talk about sharing our journey. That's part of this chapter. And Russell has been doing the exact same thing. Looking at the differences between these two books, there is definitely a spark of inspiration that's coming from him, and not just from a business side. He has found his calling, he has found his cause, and he has found a way to change the world from a place of goodness and gratitude. And that is woven into this as a business book. Like, that is what I love about what he's doing. He's
But I also
building
love
a
that.
movement of people who are really changing the world. And that's what I want to do. I want to change the
Exactly. Well,
world.
I love it too, though, that Russell is what Russell does. He's not one of those gurus who's just telling us something theoretically. This is actually what he does. And so, like I was telling you before we started here, I thought, oh yeah, finding your voice, that must be the cause. And then we realized, oh no, that's not secret number 2. There is so much more to this. Anyways, let me wait. So we're getting it.
All right, so we're going to start this episode with the 5 phases to becoming an expert. So this is where we're starting in our growth phase and we're moving over to our contribution phase. So the first step, for those of you who need a recap, the first stage is to be a dreamer. That's the phase where you're really embracing all of this. You're becoming obsessed with your topic. So Samantha, how did you become a dreamer? What did that phase look like for you?
It looked like total failure. That's what it looked like. Like I told you in my intro, right? I went for 500K. I had a 6-figure business. It was great. It was my marketing agency. My biggest client said, right? And I actually had nothing. I went for over 9 to 10 months, literally just trying to find new contracts, spending my personal savings and my company profits, and had nothing. So July 31, 2019, I said goodbye to my last team member, and I was at below rock bottom. I was at wherever I was, rock bottom was above that. So from that state, the only thing for me was, well, I tried depression and I had a lot of suicidal thoughts, but I didn't go that route. I went the route of dreaming, and I started dreaming of what life could be. I decided that I wasn't going to do business the way I was doing it anymore. I knew that even if I was going to build another team, I had to choose another way. And that even though I'd had 20 years in marketing and communications, I also needed a shift. And so I literally used to say to myself, I have to breathe a new air. I have to breathe a new air. And somewhere in there, I was on the internet, I found Russell, and I started crying when I saw his presentation. I think it was his 10X presentation, his very first one, where he told about him losing his own business and the fact that he had nothing. And that's how the One Funnel Away story came about. I signed up for One Funnel Away, and within that is how I found my dream. I did it 3 times. And each time I dreamed a little bit more and a little bit more. So by the time I actually really started applying it, it was about a year ago now. No, it wasn't even so much. It's about 10 months ago, 9 or 10 months ago. By the time I started applying it, I made my first $5,000 within a week of really applying it and utilizing it. And that's when I knew my life was different. So I had to decide on a new way of life because I needed to put food on the table. And that was a dream for me. But then when I go back to my journal, Molly, I realized I've always wanted to touch women's lives. I didn't know it was going to be called the Fearless Coaches Club. That's what my program is called now. But I knew I wanted to help women to be fearless and live in a fearless way.
Oh, that's amazing. And phase 2 then is to become a reporter and start sharing that with the world. Oh, I know. We're obsessed with that.
Yes. Yes. Listen.
So Russell outlines 3 different ways that we can do this. And that's all about connecting to the right people and sharing those voices of the experts. So the first thing he outlines, and I love these 3 because you and I live these 3, and like not only separately, but together. So the first one is going to live events and meeting people in person. So we say live events, we mean like live in-person events, but we're also meaning these new up-and-coming virtual events. Network with people. And what's funny is that that's how Samantha and I met. That's initially how we met. And if you follow on to all of our other podcast episodes and whatever, you'll hear all of that story. But we met at a Russell Brunson Funnel Hacking Live event. And then the second idea that Russell tells us is to start a podcast. And that's what you're listening to right now. I'm sharing experts with you, my friends. And then the third idea is to start a virtual summit. So actually, that's how Samantha and I we not only met, but then we connected. And that's the biggest difference when you're building a community and you're building influence, is making that heart-to-heart connection, connecting on the level of values, connecting on the level of how do you want to change the world, and how can we do that together? We're not competing, we're doing it together. So that's how I've kind of put those 3 ideas into play. How have you put those into play in your life?
Yeah. Okay. So looking at it here, going to live events, well, definitely that's what you and I have done. I'm going to tell another quick story. October of last year. So once again, not that long ago, I went to an event. I only had money to pay for, to share a room. It was a live event that was in San Diego. At that live event, I shared room with somebody and I made some friends. That person that I shared room with, she eventually found out that I didn't have even money to buy food. So she became like my real sister, because if they hadn't served lunch at the event, that's tribe of bias, I wouldn't have been able to eat. So we became very close because she realized I'm not here to waste time. I used to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and just go do my studies and stuff. And while there, she and I, many months later now, are working together, right? So in the midst of the reporting, you connect with the right people. In addition to that, in the midst of like going to live events, that event became another mastermind. And there I connected with another woman that right now we're in the midst of a joint venture approach for another business idea. And I bring her onto my platform all the time, and she brings me onto that. Then I've got a Facebook group, and I do the reporting of creating virtual events, and I bring many experts there. Talking about the podcast, I started a podcast, guys. My first time, second time pretty much sucked. My third time, we're going pretty good. So podcasts really help because you're right. You bring others in and you become an expert yourself as you talk to experts and learn from them. And then the other one, which is launching a summit. Well, I'm actually, thanks to Molly. Molly inspired me so much. And I'm like, Molly, I have to do my own summit. So I'm in the midst of planning my own summit, which is going to launch a little bit sooner. And doing that is going to bring other experts into the space so that we can share with women around the core idea. It's like, I love this because we're living it.
Exactly. I think you and I need to do a podcast conversation for my new up and coming secret podcast that we've been talking about, and we can dive into summits. Yeah. I'll tell you what I've learned. You tell me what you're worried about. We'll make it awesome. Because that's the secret to making this all work, my friends, is connecting with people and genuinely helping people. Teaching people what you've learned.
It's like, I love that. But I think if you're outside of this space, they may be hearing us talking right now and be like, yeah, that don't make any sense. And why would anyone want to share with me what they learned when they did all the hard work? But within this community, we realize that we are actually better when we teach and when we share. That we actually become better versions of ourselves. We become better people when we share. And so I don't know what the real world is like anymore, because this is the only world that I know.
I don't want to be in the real world anymore. This place is fun. Well, let's jump into the third suggestion. We're going to run through these ones a little bit quicker because, well, Russell takes up a giant section of this chapter talking about building frameworks, which we're actually going to get into in another chapter coming up very, very soon. So check that one out. But number 4 is to become a servant. And that is where he suggests, no, it's not suggesting. He kind of lays it out in stone as somewhat of a commandment that you work for free. What did that phase look like for you?
So what's so funny here is, there are those in the marketplace who say that's garbage. You are not to work for free, do nothing for free. I think there are many ways that working for free can look. I'm presently working on a 5-day challenge where I'm literally going to be pouring out all the secrets that helped me to get where I got to for free, right? And I'm not mincing it. One of the reasons it's so easy to do the work for free is because it's value added. It's the approach that enlightened millionaires take. It's the approach that any enlightened entrepreneur takes. You realize that in building others with what may be considered free content, you're actually building yourself. But then I've also seen a completely different aspect of that framework. It is that when people realize that you're open to give so much and so much value, they want to come back to you with their money because you're like, if your free stuff is that good, I wonder how good the paid stuff is. So for me, I've seen that over and over again, not just in the challenge inside of my free group. Literally, I brought in tons of people and I do a lot of training myself. And what I call this kind of compound, it's a compound interest that is building, building, building. So the moment that you actually ask, hey, can you do this for me? Can you pay me for this? Can you be a part of this? People want to, because they want to reciprocate the great value you've given them.
And even for those of you who are starting businesses like from the bottom right now, where you're launching a brand new product, in that working for free phase, you're really not working for free. And I honestly think it was Dan Henry who talks about in that working for free phase, you're actually working for something, and that something is of incredible value. That is a testimonial. Because once you get that testimonial on video, you repurpose it into text, et cetera, et cetera. Now you have something that you can go out and get more customers with. That one little hook is going to be a certification you can put on your wall. Look at these results that I can get.
Awesome. So the social proof goes a very long way. It's actually pretty priceless here. And Molly, you know, the fastest way for you to get a testimonial is just ask the person to share. What was it like before you had this conversation with me or this experience? What happened during and what happened after? Testimonials aren't that hard to get, right? And it doesn't have to be about your core. They don't have to be testifying about your core offer. They can just be testifying about their experience with you. That is also very valuable.
Absolutely. Oh, fantastic. And then once you've done that, once you have your testimonials and stuff, you can then step into the role of being an expert. And when you step into that role, a lot of people still have that fear that they're not good enough, that they don't have a certification for X, Y, and Z on they didn't go to graduate school for marketing, so they can't teach marketing or whatnot. How do you get over that like imposter syndrome kind of feeling?
You know what? What I tell my ladies is that life has overqualified you for the role that you have right now, because everything in your life to this point has actually been your lessons, your training. So when you open your mouth and you choose, which is why we have to publish, right? Because the more we do it, the better we become. As you share your story and you share your message, it starts resonating even greater. So imposter syndrome happens to CEOs of multi-billion-dollar companies who have been running companies for 40 years. It's also the same thing that happens to those of us who started our business yesterday. So if we recognize that feeling fear is normal and feeling the imposter syndrome is normal, it then is not if we're going to have it. It's when it comes, how do we deal with it? And I tell you, you are overqualified. This burning desire within you, Napoleon Hill says, the presence of the desire is an indication that the thing you desire is a thing you're to have. The thing you're to do is the thing you're to do. The message you have is a message you're to share. Just go share it and see what happens.
Yes, I
I
love
know.
that.
Love
And
it.
that is a perfect time. So we're going to take a quick break, listen to this awesome little message coming up, and we'll be back to talk about taking on that role of a leader. Hey everyone, it's Coach Molly here, and I want to let you in on a little bit of a surprise I've been working on behind the scenes for the last little bit. Well, I have been on a mission to connect women with things that are going to propel their businesses and their ideas forward. Why? Because I am convinced that if we can inspire women to stand up and speak up, we can change the world for the better. And what am I going to do about that? Well, what I have been doing is collecting a whole amazing community of women who want to level up themselves and their businesses. And they want to do it in a supportive environment where we're there to celebrate and cheer each other on. So come, join the community at facebook.com/groups/ladyhackers. That's facebook.com/groups/ladyhackers. I really want you to come and join us. So tell all your friends. All right, back to your regularly scheduled. Welcome back, everyone. Now we're going to talk about becoming a leader. If you're new to this podcast and you just jumped in halfway through this episode, that's okay. I'm Coach Molly from Three Pines Leadership. That's Samantha Gooden. And we are talking about building your revolution, pretty much. So right now, we're going to talk about becoming a leader. So I'm going to run through the framework when we're going to talk about one specific area of this framework for you guys. So At Russell Brunson, the rule is do what Russell says.
Pretty much.
Don't go halfway to it. Jump full in. It will make you uncomfortable. You will come up against things that may seem odd or might make you have to change your fundamental understanding of how to do this. But the first thing that makes a lot of people's stomachs churn is to publish every day. Yeah, that's right. Pick your medium and publish every day, whether it's going live in your group, whether it's having a podcast, whether it's your YouTube channel, whether it's doing blogs every day. It doesn't matter, but publish, publish, publish. And we'll get into that a lot more in future episodes because it's absolutely essential. All right. So promise me right now, you will do what Russell says, you will do what I say, and you will publish every day. And what do you do when you're publishing every day? Well, that's number 2, and that is to document your journey. So as you're taking on that role of the obsessed dreamer and you're taking on that role of the reporter, you're sharing this information with your community. You're documenting your own journey with everyone. The third thing is to test your material. So don't just think that the first thing that comes out of your head is the best idea. Test, ask questions, try it out with different markets and come up with what is best and use that, optimize, and you'll be great. The next one is to be prolific. So make sure that you are fitting in that prolific index, not in an extreme crazy zone and not in the mainstream, somewhere where you're going to get some curiosity and you're going to find a lot more market traction. And the next one that we're going to jump into here is mastering persuasion. So the 1-sentence persuasion, or the 1-sentence persuasion sentence, or whatever that's called, which is 5 steps. 1, encourage their dreams. 2, justify their failures. 3, allay their fears. 4, confirm their suspicions. And 5, throw rocks at their enemies. So Samantha, how have you used this concept in your business?
Oh my goodness. This right here is the core of business. This right here. If you are able to, oh gosh. So right now my program is like, I literally have chills. The Fearless Coaches Club, right? Before the idea came, like I said, I wasn't quite qualifying it like that. My very first course was called Marketing Launch Secrets. I launched for $497. It put food on the table. Woohoo! Right. But then as I started talking more about it, I realized it wasn't just about helping women to create a course over 30 days, because we kept hitting up against this inertia, right? The fear. How on earth are we going? So then that's when the encouragement of dreams started happening. Because if we don't have the vision in front of us, the dream that's pulling us, creating the tension between where we are, we get completely lost. So that's where I recognize that for the women who were coming to me, I need to do that. Now, I wasn't getting them in droves, but for the women that came, I kept testing and retesting the message. So you know how I did it? When I had conversations with them and I would identify what their dream was, I literally just wrote on a piece of paper and wrote that part down and wrote what their fears were. And I had at one point 12, 15 women, and that's exactly what I did, just on a piece of paper to identify if there were any similarities there. So then I recognized the failures were some very similar. Some people felt like they were the black sheep. Some people felt like there was no hope for them. Some people felt like no one would ever pay them. Don't worry, that's not your fault, because that's how you do it. Then you allay the fears, and allaying the fears is the core of my message. It's okay to feel fear. Feeling fear is normal. We feel the fear, we do it anyways. That is the definition of courage. That's the definition of who we are and what we do. And we're going to do that by taking the message out. So by the time you get to confirming their suspicions, which is, I wasn't sure I could do it, because launching anything is really challenging. Because now there's a community of us, it was okay, because we were confirming suspicions within a community. So no one felt alone. Oh my God, I didn't think I was good enough. It's all right. You're better than you even think you are, right? And because of that, we all started bonding together. There's just something, when you're confirming suspicions and you're doing the part of allaying their fears, we all start banding together around there. So after that, we started just throwing rocks. And my throw rocks message is simple. Listen, lots of people are out there making you think that it's super easy to get this thing done. There are challenges, but we can do it together. And I'm going to show you exactly, you know why? Because this isn't theory for me. This is literally what puts food on the table for me right now, every single day. And I can show you. So what that then started doing once again is creating even greater, stronger community. So we talk about how to become a leader. You become a leader. You can, it's John Maxwell who says, if you're walking alone, you're really not a leader, right? A leader with no one following them is just taking a walk. Essentially, that's the quote. And so you have to be leading because you have a tribe. The journey that Russell talks about in leadership creation is actually tribe creation. Oh God, I love this. I love it because as we throw more rocks, it's the more polarizing we become. And the more polarizing we become is the more our people find us. Because we're not sitting on the sidelines, we're actually taking the active role,
Absolutely. When it comes to community and it comes to the community of women that you've built around them, what is one of the most hardest things that they're trying to avoid?
Oh God, embarrassment. No one wants to feel rejected, and the rejection comes up in multiple ways. They don't want to put something out there that no one's going to buy. Even though they see the results, they're afraid of being consistent with the results because it's only through consistency that we allay more fears, right? So they don't want to. Many will say it in different ways. Most people don't use the word rejection, but I know that's what the core is. Most people will say, "What if nobody buys? I'm afraid that I'll be all alone. What if people laugh at me? I've got my auntie on this or my mummy on this, and they don't know this part of my message." Or this message is so new because I believe that we speak from the truth of us. That's what you're doing right now, Molly. Speak from the truth of you. And a true leader, that's what we do. And so most of them are afraid to show themselves because as women, when we show up and shine, it can feel very nerve-wracking because many of us have never had to do it before.
So true. So true. Oh, I got chills. Oh, well, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast and talking about this
I loved it.
chapter with me.
Loved it.
Oh,
Molly, this is my life. This is when you said finding your voice, well, yes, I can be there. I can be there. I can do this because this is honest to goodness what shifted for me. I didn't tell you this before, but I had no idea about going live. I had heard Russell talk about publishing. All I could afford at that time was the free platform, which is Facebook. I had a page. It wasn't my personal page. I created a page and I just started going live every day. Molly, most times nobody would watch. Sometimes 2 people, 5, but most times it was really 0 people. But somehow inside of there, the algorithm started sharing my marketing message with a few people. 2 people invited me into their group. Inside of one of those groups, that's where the opportunity for me to share my message came up. And when I shared it, on the back end of it, they asked me, do you have something to share with us? Like, can you sell us something? And that's how my first product got created. 10 people, $4.97, food on the table. So when you talk about finding your voice, that's just it. And as we do this consistently, I'm telling you, if you're watching this right now and you're like, this sounds really good, but I can't do it. Give yourself time, grace, and patience. Choose to face your fears and be courageous, and miracles can happen. Like they really can. That's how Molly and I met. Yeah.
And it's like each of us holds a flame. And when you have those 2 flames together, we're not taking away from each other. We're really creating a bigger, more impactful fire. And that I think is the most important part of the idea of building a community and sharing your voice. You have to understand what it is that excites you about what you're doing and how you're changing people's lives. Then go out there, find those people, bring them to your message by sharing your message on a regular, consistent basis.
So for me, that's the definition of success. Massive imperfect action, MIA, plus consistent intentional action, CIA. That's what equals success. The massive imperfect part is, oh my goodness, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to do something anyways. The consistent part is, oh my goodness, I'm going to keep doing what I don't know even though I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to keep doing it every single day. But ultimately, as you do that, that is how you find your voice. That is how you get success. And it really works, guys. It really works.
I was looking back recently at some of the first episodes of my podcast, and I am surprised people listen to it. But I'm glad they did because I continued, and now it feels like I'm more excited to jump on here and do a podcast episode. I used to be much more nervous about it and worried, and as you said, embarrassed. But now I'm excited. I'm pumped. It's my fuel now.
Oh gosh, I think as entrepreneurs, we are to be very mindful that we need fuel around us.
Mm.
So because most of the time, the entrepreneurial world, other than the fact that it's the most expensive form of personal development that you will ever find, um, you're also going to realize that it can be lonely as you are finding your way, finding your voice, creating this dream, and then holding the vision for it. So we need each other. We really do need each other. I need to hear Molly, even sometimes if it's just a message through Messenger. Feeling the energy of that message can make a huge shift and a huge difference. So I really want to thank you, Molly, for creating this space. Thank you so much for doing it and your passion, because I can see it's like it literally is a wildfire. It's a wildfire that you're creating, and before long, it's not going to need anything from you. It's just going to go and go and go and go and go, and that, my friend, is the definition of a movement. That's another story for another time.
So thank you everyone at home for checking into this episode. That's Samantha Gooden. I'm Coach Molly from Three Pines Leadership. This has been the Business Building Book Club. I will see you again next episode. Until then, remember, I love you and be excellent to each other.